Hi, I'm Matt, Chief Architect here at Nimble SA. Today I'm going to be talking to you about what Nimble SA is doing to help our customers prevent fraud. Online fraud costs us about $48 billion annually at global scale. And of that $48 billion, about 70% of it originates from authentication flows, including sign up and log in. Of all of that sign up and log in traffic, 36% of it is caused by synthetic identities, that is, fake IDs. To help solve this problem, Nimble SA is partnering with global identity leaders to build identity validation and anti-fraud tools designed for customer identity. So what is a valid identity anyway? Well, just like your security posture, identity validation is all about the layers, adding additional validations on top of your customer's identity to help distinguish the legitimate customers from the malicious actors. As you add more and more validation components, you increase the entropy of the identity, helping to ensure that you're actually dealing with a human being and not, say, a bot or a fake account. So let's take a look at a customer use case. Our customer is a health services provider, and they want to allow their customers to schedule sensitive prescription deliveries. But first, they need their customers to verify their identity prior to shipment. This allows them to meet their regulatory requirements when shipping controlled substances. To start this workflow, the user has already provided a prescription ID, and the provider's backend application has determined that the customer either needs to sign up or authenticate themselves. Our customer wants to verify that their end user is using a legitimate email. They want to do this for more than one reason. The first is obvious: to prevent fraud. But additionally, they plan to send communication to this user, and those communications cost money. When they send those communications to email addresses that are not capable of receiving emails, that's wasted money. Additional email reputation risk signals include domain reputation and configuration, checking for disposable emails, or checking for emails that are created by bots or emails that are part of abuse and spam campaigns. The sign-up flow begins by sending the user to the sign-up endpoint. This can be done using a dynamic redirect or by the user clicking the sign up button in the customer application. The user will then be redirected to the Auth0 endpoint where they can create their first factor credential. This is where email reputation validation begins. The user will be redirected to a progressive profiling application, and they will be asked to consent to validate their email. Once their email has been validated, they will be shown the information that we retrieve from their email validation and ask them to consent a second time to share that email validation information with the identity provider. Next, our customer wants to verify that their customer is using a phone number that can be contacted, either by text or voice. They also want to validate that the phone is currently in the end user's possession and that the phone meets certain regional requirements. Additionally, there are other phone reputation risk signals that the customer may want to validate. For example, we can validate whether or not the SIM card in the phone has been swapped within the last 24 or 48 hours. We can also validate the A2P and P2P reputation of the phone number to determine if the phone has been involved in automated communications or is active in person-to-person communications, implying that a human is on the other end of the device. To start the phone validation workflow, we'll send the user back to the login endpoint. This could be done through dynamic redirect, or you could present the user with a button, allowing them to choose when they start this workflow. Since the user in this demo is already logged in, no credential challenge is prompted when the user is redirected to the login endpoint. This is because the user has an existing SSO session. The user is then redirected to the Progressive Profiling app to collect their phone number. After collecting the phone number, a code is sent to the user via SMS text message. Prior to sending the SMS text message, we validate that the SIM card in the device has not been swapped in the last 24 hours. If the SIM card has been swapped, a new phone number can be requested from the user. Once the phone number has been validated, the user is asked to consent to sharing the validated information with the identity provider. Once they've consented, they're redirected to their user profile. Alternatively, they could be redirected to any other page on the customer website. Now, before they can schedule a shipment for the end user, they need to verify that the address is deliverable and not a vacant lot and not part of a campus or a commercial mail routing system. Additionally, our customer might want to validate the GPS coordinates from the address or they might want to determine whether or not they can schedule an in-person pickup at that address. Just like before, this workflow will start by redirecting the user to the login endpoint. And just like before, since I'm already logged in and I have an active SSO session, I'll be automatically redirected through Auth0 and land at the Progressive Profiling application where my address will be collected. Once the user has submitted their address, we validate it, and once again, the user is requested to consent once more to sharing this information with the identity provider. Once they've consented to sharing their information, they will be redirected back to their profile app or to the originating page on the customer's website. Now that we've validated the end user's email address, phone number, and shipping address, the final step in preventing fraud is to validate that all of that information matches what's on the end user's government ID. At the same time, we'll validate the end user's device location to ensure that it's within a particular geofence region. This allows our customer to make sure that they can meet all of their compliance requirements when shipping controlled substances. Once again, the user is simply redirected to the login endpoint, where they'll automatically be redirected to the Progressive Profiling application, where they'll start their document validation workflow. To begin this workflow, all of the previously validated email, phone, and address information was securely passed in by the backend. Once the end user has confirmed their email address, they're asked to validate their phone number again. I've obscured it here, but the last 3 digits of their phone number are shown to them to ensure that they're using the phone number that was passed in by the backend. The user is then sent a code via SMS, and they enter that code to prove possession of their phone. Now, while it may seem unnecessary to revalidate possession of the phone, keep in mind that these workflows may occur days, weeks, or even months apart from one another. And so it's necessary to validate that the user still has possession of the phone. Once phone validation is complete, we'll begin location checking. The user will be asked to turn on location services, and will use location services to identify the physical location of the device. The customer can then use this location to determine if the user is within the required geofencing boundaries. Now it's time to validate my identity documents. Now I want to pause here and note that I've already accepted the terms and conditions to validate my government identity. However, if I were a new user going through this process for the first time, I would be shown the customer's terms and conditions and be asked to consent prior to validating my identity documents. Next, the user chooses their country of origin, and then they choose which type of document they'd like to use to validate their identity. As you can see here, we support many different types of national identity documents. The end user can now choose how they want to continue the workflow. The easiest is to snap a QR code and continue on their mobile device. The workflow here is paused while the user finishes on their mobile device. The user begins by taking a photo of the front of their government ID, and next by taking a photo of the back of their government ID. Once those identities have been validated, the user is asked to take a selfie and then confirms the selfie. The documents are validated, and if there's an error validating the documents, the user is returned to the upload screen. When they're finished, the user is returned to the original workflow. The original workflow automatically advances and begins to validate the previously provided address with the address on the document identity. This takes a few moments, and the user is redirected to a screen, once again asking them to consent to providing this information to the identity provider. Once they've consented, the user is automatically redirected back to the user profile app or to the customer's website. In this video, I've walked you through a real use case where our customer needed to allow their end users to schedule deliveries of their prescriptions, which may include controlled and regulated substances, while continuing to meet all of their audit and regulatory requirements. But I want to point out that the techniques that we used in this customer use case are equally effective at preventing fraud in any customer identity use case. These methods can be combined to reduce fake accounts at your self-service signup, automate your identity validation and remove manual yes/no operations, detect that there's a real human on the other end of the line, or prevent international actors from exploiting your service. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to helping you fight fraud in your customer identity applications.